All right, welcome to the Denver Area Access User Group meeting for Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017. Today we're going to talk about converting an Access database to a full-blown SQL.NET application. We're going to go through this step by step. I have a handout for you with hopefully fairly straightforward steps. As we go through this, we'll go into some detail on these. But this is basically everything you have on this page is everything you need, everything that you need. You take an existing Access database, turn it into a SQL Server database, hook up your Access form application to that SQL Server database, migrate the SQL Server database into Azure, and build a web app very easily that hits that database. So all that is in here. And there'll probably some questions and so forth and so on. But basically, hopefully with this sheet, you'll be able to at least do enough to get yourself deep into trouble in this. So again, I guess for the sake of the recording and the remote audience, my name is George Young. I'm the Denver Area Access User Group president this year. I'm also the founder and president of Dawson Compute Software, which is a small consulting company out of Larkspur, Colorado, and I am also the webmaster for the Denver Area Access User Group. So the website that we have at Dialog.org is actually how we built it. So let's actually start by taking a look at the Dialog.org website. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the browser, and we'll go to Dialog.org. And so what you have here is your basic website. This is built in ASP.NET MVC. You can see we have sections that have general meeting information, the next upcoming meeting, monthly lab meetings that go across the top. We have an About section. We have a presentations page. This is generated from what was the Access database, which is now the SQL database. So as you can imagine, when you look at this, you can think, oh, database fields. So date field, presentation title field, presenter field, abstract field. Same thing down here. Coming up next month, we have a gentleman, Brandon Smith, who was with a local Denver Area Access Tools company. Who knew? And then we have our July 4th, and then we have past presentations. There's Tom and Christian, Paul, Jim. So all these come out of a database table, and they're rendered in HTML. Similarly, the consultants list comes out of database table. The library, which is the database table that we're going to use for our demo today. I mean, this is very tabular. If you look at this as an Access copy, you know, hey, I've got a database with 6 fields: title, author, publisher, deposit CD. Sponsors comes out of the database, and we thank our sponsors. GearHost, who does our hosting, Microsoft, Robson Cybex, who provide gifts, and Success Controls CRM, who provides the most important sponsorship of all, our pizza. Thank you, Stephan. Thank you, Christian. Okay, so that's the website. Yes. All right, so let's take a look at what we have on the docket here. So in order to convert an Access database into a SQL Server database and then to generate a .NET application, it only has Office on it. So everything that you see here, we're going to have to install live. And I'm hoping that the fact that there's a virtual machine in Azure means that the installation will not take hours. Otherwise, this would be a very interesting talk. We need 4 things. We need, first of all, the SQL Server Migration Assistant. Point number 2, that is a thing that's the upside visit. The Migration Assistant itself requires the Access database engine in order to run. Even though you have full-blown Access installed on the machine, you need this database engine for the Migration Assistant to work. We also need Visual Studio. We're going to need Community Edition to do the web, to generate the website, which we're going to do with 0 code. And then optional is SQL Server 2016. You'll notice at the very top, downloads all free. None of these cost a penny. All these are free, no cost. In addition, for Azure hosting, which we'll do, if you set up an Azure account today, you get 10 free websites in perpetuity. They're going to be mycoolwebsite.azurewebsites.net. You can't use custom domains on their free plan, but you do have free websites. You also, on the myvisualstudio.com, or if you will, the Dev Essentials, you get $300 a year in Azure credits, and we'll show you how that works. And that's basically 5 databases a year for free. So you get 5 cloud databases a year for free. So, in theory, for free, you could host 5 database-driven applications in Azure, no cost. And that's 5 databases and 5 websites. And then you have another 5 websites that you could post pictures of, you know, your family or your cats or whatever it is that you. Yes.
Website.
Yes.
Can you link from a domain website to that?
Yes. Now, the URL in the address bar will be always something.azurewebsites.net.
Okay.
You could try like iframe hosting and stuff like that, frame sets, but yeah. But if you want to have a domain associated with the site, then you have to go to their paid plan. Now, GearHost, our sponsor, who hosts dog.org, they allow you to have custom domains on their free sites. Okay. And GearHost only does databases and websites, and they do email accounts, but they don't do virtual machines, for example. So they don't have near the spectrum of offerings that Azure does, but they are an excellent alternative if you'd like to play around with some stuff. And that's just gearhost.com.
I didn't know that. I thought Azure did not have websites. Did they used to get rid of that?
Well, they had websites. They were called Azure websites, and then they changed the name to web apps as part of the Azure App Service, but it's still a website. Okay. All right. So, first thing we're going to do is download Visual Studio Community Edition. This is the free version of Visual Studio. It's kind of like access for other developers. Let's see how fast this installs. I think this is in 2017 they changed the install architecture of Visual Studio. It used to be like a 5 gig package. They've turned it into little sections so you can decide what you want. Like if you're going to do phone stuff, if you're going to do Windows stuff, if you're going to do web stuff. So it's in theory it should give us a much quicker installation. While that's happening, I'll go back over to our Word doc, and we'll go ahead and get the SQL Server Migration Assistant. Visual Studio window pop up. There's that. So here it is for Access, SQL Server Migration Assistant Access. We're going to download that bad boy. And we should pop into the bar. There we go. Let's go back over to VS and see what's happening. Okay, we're getting things set up. Here, and this guy's ready to go. So let's see if we can take down the internet by installing a bunch of things at the same time on a VM. Next. Next. I accept. Next. Typical. Install. Yes. I need more pop-up windows. All right. Okay. SSMA is done. Let's go back and check on Visual Studio. So here's this segmented installation experience. Universal.NET Desktop. And you can see Windows, Web and Cloud, Development, Office, SharePoint. We're just going to pick the ASP.NET Web. in theory, this will be a much quicker installation. So I'm going to go over and click this guy, and it's going to calculate the install size. Hey, 4.76 gig. It's a tiny. So let's go ahead and do that. And we get a starting installation, and it's doing the acquisition and downloading. So we've got Visual Studio underway, and we've downloaded the Migration Assistant. Now we're going to need this database engine. Okay, so let's go ahead and off and get him. And this is the engine under the covers that is going to provide the database services for that Migration Assistant that we're going to use. So let's come over here and let's unlock the potential of our device and bring out the best in us. And we are on a 64-bit system. So hopefully it's the 64-bit installation that we want. Yes, sir.
What if you're on a 64-bit system running with
Which is what we have. You want? Yeah, it needs to be this. I think. I mean, I get these confused. Thankfully, I don't have to do this installation very often. You don't do this every time. Yeah, it's a one-time system installation. So I'm pretty sure we run SSMA, the Migration System 64-bit, and I'm pretty sure we run the 64-bit Access Engine, but it may well fail. Okay, no. Let me change that. DAX, we do not run the 64-bit version of the installation. We run the 32-bit. So let's go back. So if you'll make a note on your handout, you want the 32-bit database engine. So, oh yeah, I'm sorry about the scrolling. Let's go to download. And we're going to uncheck this guy. It's been a while since I've set this up. Again, I set it to Cowboy just so you guys could go through the whole setup experience and first of all see how easy it is, and second of all, we should verify these snafus. Okay, so the Access database engine version is your Office version, and but the SSMA version that we run needs to be 64-bit if you're on a 64-bit system. It all gets a little bit weird, but hopefully this will work. Let's go back and what is it telling me here? It says I have 64-bit off. Oh, you know what? I wonder if it forked the installation because of the previous one. Okay. Go in here and see if we have a bad installation we need to clean up. Programs and features. No, I don't see anything. Yes, I think. Well, let's see what Access has to tell us about itself. I'm pretty sure this is a. Actually, let me go into Word. I'm pretty sure this is an installation. I just did the. What do we want? Account info options. Doesn't tell us if it's 32-bit or not, does it? Did I mess something up there? Let's go back here. Doesn't it tell me what version of Office I'm running?
It said something about Windows version. At the end of that.
Did I delete that too quickly? Okay, now here it wants the whole dialog box.
What about the about?
In here?
Yeah, the about word. You can check the system. Bottom right.
Oh, that big thing right there?
Yeah.
32-bit. Okay, so we have 32-bit Office. So why is this guy not happy about giving us the 32-bit version of this? Just because it could. Oh, Visual Studio is almost done. Try this guy again. Okay, database engine redistributable. 32-bit, right? That is not x64, we want 32. Next. Okay. That. You cannot install the 32-bit version of Microsoft Access Database Engine because you currently have 64-bit Office products installed. You? I have never seen this dialog before. Yeah.
But it doesn't like that.
It says you have to remove it first.
So I wonder what 64-bit version of Office I have. Let me try and get the let me try something else. Let me try the earlier version of the database engine. Oop. I think there was a 2010 version that used to work. If all else fails, when you fire up SSMA, when you fire up the migration assistant, it will tell you what you need and it will go get it. Now, it doesn't get you the database engine, it gets you the runtime. The thing I don't like about installing runtime is that it confuses the file systems. So all of a sudden it says, do you want to open this in the runtime or do you want to open this in full access? Let's see if this is going to work for us. This is a lot better, doesn't it? So our corrective may be that if this works, is the link is to install the 2010 database engine, which I think is what I've always used in the past. That looks like it's working. So in your on your handout for number 3, that link is going to take you to the wrong one. That link takes you to the 2016 engine that failed. So
Is there a book?
I think there is. I think there is. Okay, let's check on Visual Studio, and we're getting there. So let's launch SSMA. So I'm going to hit the Start, and then SSMA, and then we want the. You can see we have 2 options there. We have the for access, and we have the for access 32-bit. If I remember right, we want the 64-bit because we're in a 64-bit system, even though we're running 32-bit access, I think. So, yeah, this looks like it's going to work. So, although we won't really know until we get this into database. So I'm just going to add a database right now just for grins. And we'll go to Desktop, MDB, and we'll pick the library. Okay, retrieving the COM class factory failed due to the following error. So this, maybe we were in the 32-bit? I don't know. This VM's a little bit goofy. I have this working on my own machine, of course. This error may be a result of running SSMA while having only 32-bit connectivity components installed. So maybe, you know what, maybe yeah, let's go ahead and run 32-bit. It may be that I have the 2010 engine 64-bit installed and that works with 64-bit SSMA, but because we were getting that weird error message. So let's run SSMA 32-bit. So we're going to go down here and you see it's got 32-bit in parens. So let's run that guy and see what happens. It was nice. Remember the days when the Upside Wizard was a button in Access?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So not clear, a whole lot of benefits. So we're going to come back to this, but you can see here you can pick your target. anything from SQL 2008 all the way up to SQL Azure, SQL Linux. So let's just see if this loads the database. So we're going to go add databases. I just want to make sure this is working while we have Visual Studio going. Desktop, library. Yeah, I'm seeing the black squares are always a good idea. Good thing. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. All right, so this is working. Okay, so the moral of the story is, whatever your version of Access is, you want that version of the database engine 2010, and you're going to run that version of SSMA. SSMA. Is that clear as mud? Come back over here. So on the handout. Well, it's 32-bit if you're running the 32-bit connectivity, which we are. So we put in the 32-bit runtime, or we put in the 32-bit Access database engine in 2010. So therefore, SSMA had to be 32-bit. Had we put in the 64-bit runtime engine, which I think I have on my laptop, if you have time to check, then we would have put in the 64-bit SSMA. So, but again, I mean, like anything, probably sticking anything with the Office Access stuff, just stick with 32-bit. Sounds like it's the safest. Yeah. Okay, so we have all that set up, and Visual Studio is installing. Let's actually get SQL Server for free. So I like this because this gives you a full version of SQL Server, full blown. This is the professional edition of SQL Server, which is fantastic, and it's free. Now, the way that you get this free SQL Server is you go to my.visualstudio.com. So this is the fourth guy here in our list, my.visualstudio.com, and that is the developer essential benefits. So what that does is it'll ask you to log in, and I'm going to log in using my my live account, and you need a live account for this, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, MSN, Live, Outlook.com, Hotmail.com. Yeah, it used to be called a Live ID. I think now it's called a Microsoft account. Okay, so I've logged in. Now I'm already a member of this, but basically what happens, you go to my.visualstudio.com with your Live ID Microsoft account, you sign in, and it gives you this page of benefits. And we're not going to do the Azure stuff. But if you look over here, where my mouse is swirling over the cloud, $300 credit for a year. So that's the benefit that I mentioned earlier, that basically you can host 5 databases. Databases are $5 each, the basic Azure database. So you can put $25 a year in a database, 5 databases a month for a year, for or you could do other stuff. You could host a VM for part of that if you didn't have 5 databases. You can get, this is the Visual Studio Community, which you already downloaded. If you are so inclined and you have the time, there is also Pluralsight down here under Education for 3 months, which is a fantastic developer training site. It's fantastic. So you can learn about HTML, you can do Office, you can do .NET, and they have really, really great courses. I think normally for the regular version it's $29 a month. You get 3 free months. WinTelect, which is Windows developers, that's old C++ guys like Jeff Russ has, but it is actually very good. Linux Academy, whatever. Microsoft Virtual Academy is also pretty decent. That's already free. But I would say the big guys here are going to be the $300 in Azure credits, the over $300, well, $20 for 3 months. So $100 in free Pluralsight, and you get the free database, which we're going to download now. So again, to get to this, my.visualstudio.com, and enter in your credentials. So let's get the SQL Server here. So we're going to download him. Let's go ahead and check on Visual Studio. And we're getting there. It's just doing the setup. So there's SQL Server, and we're going to set up SQL Server in real time while Visual Studio is installed. So again, this is the full-blown, I think we'll just do basic. This is a new installation. I hadn't seen it. This is nice. You ever seen the SQL Server installation dialog? Oh, it's like, what do I click? Right, it's got the nested tree view, and then it's got like the additional shared components. And you're like, what, do I need this? Or client connectivity SDK, client connectivity, client components. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will go out and get a bigger hard drive rather than try and figure out what's going on here. So, yes, sir.
Question: Visual Studio Code, modern lightweight editor use?
That is part of Microsoft's cross-platform developer efforts. They made Visual Studio Code, which is pretty much a text editor, but it does really good stuff like IntelliSense and you get package handling and stuff like that. It doesn't have a lot of wizards and scaffolding and stuff like Visual Studio does.
Better than like Notepad++.
It's much better than Notepad++. And it's free, and it's Mac, Linux, and Windows. So is it called? Visual Studio Code. I'm going to Alt-Tab out of our Developer Edition installation window, and let's come back over here. So it's probably right up here. So right next to Visual Studio Community Edition. Visual Studio is the whole integrated kitchen sink package. I mean, you'll see when we launch it, it's daunting what is in that thing. It's unbelievable. Fortunately, we're just going to do a little piece of it. Visual Studio Code is primarily a text editor, but it's very, very nice. And like you said, it's much better than Notepad++. One of the things Microsoft is doing is trying to figure out how does Microsoft thrive in this world where mobile devices are the new computers and 99% of the mobile device OS ecosystem is Apple. So this, I believe, this is part of it, this Visual Studio Code. Part of it. You know, it runs on Mac, it runs on Linux, it runs on. They still want to kind of try to somehow keep you in the Microsoft developer ecosystem, but obviously saying, hey, run it on Windows or nowhere else isn't real viable right now. Access developers. In fact, what we're going to do today is one way of dealing with client or employer cross-platform requirements. Hey, can you run this on a phone? Yeah. Right? I mean, no, I'm not going to try to put an Access Forms application on a phone. It's not going to work. Right? Even if I could, you know, you're going to have one of those finger extensions with the pointy metal things, the dialog boxes and stuff. But the web version, but by dint of taking the Access MDB, by taking the database part of the MDB and putting it into SQL, all of a sudden, hey, we can quickly generate a web app without writing any code. So this is a little slower than I'd hoped, but we're still actually doing okay, considering that we're setting up an entire development machine here. But I hope it's okay. But I wanted to walk through this and have you guys see what was involved. It was basically 4 pieces. Visual Studio and SQL Server, and we didn't actually have to have SQL Server because with Visual Studio you get SQL. I can't remember what it's called right now. It's a light version of SQL. It runs. Thank you, SQL Express. Thank you. It comes with Visual Studio. With Visual Studio, yeah. So, download successful, and my options are pause or cancel. What do I do? Oh, there you go. Oof. Okay. going to give you a second to pose your installation. And, okay, so Visual Studio is installed. We got the community for free. And by the way, again, I mean, this to me is just so cool. We haven't spent a penny. We haven't even have to put in a credit card. And we've got.
We have had to make some tough decisions.
We have had to make some tough decisions, right? The emotional strain of this. So we're going to have Visual Studio setting up. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at let's go ahead and step away from our setup and let's take a look at actually how we dealt with this specifically. So in the dog world, prior to a couple of years ago, the way that things were managed is that there were a bunch of separate databases. Okay, so you had a members database, you had a presentations database, you had a library database, and everybody kind of managed their own database. So if I was the webmaster, I had this presentations database. I think the librarian had a library database, and when he made a change, he would email the library database to the webmaster, and then the website, the former dog website, actually had a whole bunch of ODBC connections to all these different MDBs. Right? Yeah, it was insane, right? All this VB script, hundreds of lines of VB script, managing that. So what we did, I don't think I necessarily need to walk through this. I can if you want. But what I did is I took all these individual tables and I just copied them into a single dog AACDB. Which is, in theory, these VMs are supposed to, maybe SQL Server installation is all. Okay, enable content. So you can see what I did in here. Is I just put in these separate tables. So this is the access table. There's a list item. I call it a library item. Remember, there's the old presentation database, sponsored database. So I just basically just copied them into a single AACDB. Does anybody need to spend 10 minutes going through that, how that works? No? Okay, fine, we'll move on. Great. So there's our access database. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to work with the library database. So here's what that looks like. And we'll go ahead and enable content. And we got library books. And we got TBL library books. And we got TBL library books ME. So I think library books and table library books are pretty much the same thing. But we'll take table library books. That looks a little bit cleaner. So we'll take this table library books table. Okay. So let's go ahead and close that. Check on SQL Server. Just about done. Let's go ahead and close our web browser because we're all done with that. And let's go ahead and come back here. I think we're done trying to fix things. Features. And let's kind of catch up where we are here. So we've done all our downloads. We'll cover the Azure Portal when we'll deploy. We talked about the free credits and Visual Studio Team Services. We'll come to that if we have time. So from access to SQL Server, if your data is in multiple access databases, create a new single access database with all the tables that you need. That's what we did with the AACDB there. Create any relationships desired. So if you bring over things that happen to be related tables that were before in separate databases, you'll obviously want to set up the relationships there. Eventually, we plan to have like a speakers table, and then the presentations table will reference that. But for now, everything is all together. Run SSMA, pick your SQL Server platform, load your access database and run the conversion. And then check your new SQL Server database in SQL Server Management Studio. When we install SQL Server here, it gives us the Management Studio. I should have downloaded this first because this is gating us from moving on to this second thing. But let's go ahead and start SSMA and just explore that. So again, we're going to do the 32-bit SSMA, and I'll fire that up, and now I'll go into more detail on this. So it gives us a wizard by default on the launch screen that basically is going to set up our migration process. And it gives us a nice step-by-step list, which we'll come back to. And then we go next. So we're going to pick SQL Server 16 because we're doing a local. But we could actually pop this guy right up to Azure. Now, why would we not immediately host the database in Azure? Because we have that latency. So when we're doing development locally, it's nice to have a local copy of the database. Once we've got everything done and working, you'll see how incredibly easy it is to migrate both the database and the web app up into Azure. I mean, it's literally a matter of just a couple of mouse clicks. So we'll pick SQL Server 2016 as our target because that's what we're migrating to. So we'll go next. And now it's going to ask us to find our database that we want to bring with us. So we go up here and we click Add Database, and then we go over to here. We're going to pick Library. Okay.
What's the difference between find database and
I don't know. I never clicked Find. Do you want to? Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, let's see. Oh, look at that. It looks like a tool from the 90s. I basically could put a bunch of search criteria and stuff and go off and, I guess if you have hundreds of access databases, right? I guess. Okay. All right. There you go. That's what Find Database does. So here it is. We have our library.mdb. So we'll go next. And now, hopefully with the little black boxes, yeah, booyah, that's how we know we're in the right place. And now we pick our library, which you see, okay, so here it gives us, so let's unfold. So we have the access metadata. It gives us the databases that we picked, in this case, the library. We expand that, it gives us queries and tables, so we could import queries. And then it gives us the list of tables. And I think we said TBL library book, right? Yeah, so I don't know what how the latest version of SSMA does it. I would run a test and just yeah, it's free. Assuming you get the right versions, the right good versions, it's a matter of seconds. So we're just going to do TBL library books. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so let's go ahead and go next. And now we need SQL Server. Come on, baby. Come on. Oh. A restart is required. Oh, no. And look at this new dialog, install SSMS. So I guess they have it set up, but if you want to run all these installations have changed since the last time I've done this. So if you want, I guess the default SQL installation is just the database, assuming like you're putting it on a server and you don't want any management studio on that. But so we're gonna pop SSMS on here. Then I'm afraid we're gonna have to reboot. Should we try it without rebooting? Yeah, let's learn.
It's free.
It's free. We can always it's free and it's a virtual machine. You know, we can always rebuild. We have the technology. By the way, it does give you if you can there's a metadata explorer that you can use to get all kinds of about your fields in there. It's not a great one, but so let's go ahead and see if we can connect the SQL Server. So boom, default, and Windows off, and do I need to have a database? Let's call it dog test connect. Let's see what happens. Does not exist. Create database? Yes. And now the fun starts. So now I need to convert, load, and migrate. So this is interesting. So I'm sorry, that was kind of fast. So what, and this is actually a different experience than if you just go through the wizard, which we probably should have done. In fact, let me just cancel out of this because this is kind of goofy. This is not the way that I would recommend to go through this. So let's go ahead and close this guy, and we'll quickly fire up SSMA again, just so we get the real experience that you're going to have when you do it. So SSMA, 32-bit, and we'll go in, and okay, next. SQL Server 2016 is the target. Next, we're going to go pick Add Database, Library. Next, Library, Tables, and we said just Table, Library, Book. Next, next. Okay, so far it's all looking good. Now here's an interesting one. If you check this weird checkbox that's kind of floating out here in space all by itself, what'll happen is it will actually get rid of the tables in the ACDB or MDB that you use for this migration and replace them with linked tables to the SQL Server. So you probably don't want to check that unless you're working on a copy, because it will blow away your tables. So we're not going to do that. But the idea being that you can quickly convert a Forms app from using an Access backend to using a SQL backend. So it's done, it's migrated, all that while I was blabbing on. So you notice that we have 0 errors. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Do we have any errors? You're going to get a lot of warnings about, the field names and the spaces and the this and the that. I have never had this not work when there were no errors, even if there were 50 warnings. That is a database that I have usually get a few hundred warnings. And it just works. If you like, you can actually view the errors, the warnings, by clicking here, and it actually gives you the information. So you can see that we have the warning primary key column is nullable. Okay. Yeah.
Would your errors show up here?
Yes. Yes, exactly. The errors will show up here. So we'll go ahead and close this, okay? So that's it. That was a conversion. Okay. That's how easy it is. Do you want to do it again with the full dog database, or should we move on? Do I need to walk through that again? No? Okay. All right. So we're done with that. Is it not setting up? Okay. So we need to do this. We need to set up SSM the Management Studio, apparently. All right. Any questions or comments or concerns so far? We've basically set up a whole dev environment and converted the database.
So I'll block out about 4 hours. Per day.
Per bullet point. While we're waiting for this, let me show you the Azure Portal. Do I want to show the... Okay, we'll do the Azure Portal. So I sign in using my lab ID. All right. So here's the Azure Portal. So what it has is a dashboard, and you can pin a bunch of tiles to it. You can see what I have here is in the middle I have all my app services. Those are all my websites that I have on there. And then I have the SQL databases over there on the right. And this is one portal instance that I have. I have about 5 of these. And in the drop down over there where it says GCL like on Dawson Good software, I'm not going to drop that down, but I have my clients in there. So I have clients that run Azure, and they add me as an account administrator, and I have full access to their Azure credentials. So not only am I running my own IT shop, I'm running client IT shops as well. It's unbelievable. So you can see here on the left some of the things that you can do in here. You can see that some of the credits that I have with freebies in Azure. And again, if you sign up for the Visual Studio free Visual Studio Dev Essentials with the $300 a year, you'll have a credit that'll basically show up that you can spend now on your website.
Yes. If you already have an Azure account,
Mm-hmm.
will it change your account type?
It will add a subscription to that account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what happens when you sign up for that benefit, it gives you a link that has a code at the end. You click that link, it takes you to Azure, you log in, then it applies that link and basically creates a credit or a subscription. The Azure, Azure's a bit daunting, but they have accounts and then subscriptions and then resource groups and then it takes a little while to wade through it. But yeah, it basically creates a subscription. But you can see here I can create SQL servers, SQL database, Active Insights, which is monitoring, Azure Active Directory. So you can actually set up any number of Active Directories in the cloud for free as long as they're at the basic level. I mean, you can use those to authenticate your applications. Different subscriptions, you can set up virtual machines. So this here is the DBS demo VM on the top right of it. Okay? So you can see there in this Azure account that has these 3 subscriptions, I have that VM, and it actually tells me that it's running right now. So we're actually looking at this, showing the VM is running within the VM in front. All kinds of monitoring and billing and stuff. And just for grins, if you wanted to set up a virtual machine, so we go over here, and you can see there's that one guy, DBS Demo VM. If I want to add a virtual machine, I click the Add guy up here, and it's pretty mind-blowing. So I can set up a Citrix machine, a Linux Ubuntu, a Red Hat, a SQL Server Enterprise, a virtual machine scale set, a SharePoint Server trial, a data science virtual machine, SQL Server on Red Hat, Dynamics Preview, Voice over IP Now, Windows Server, Ubuntu Server, Windows, Cisco. It's astounding what you can do with this thing. Similarly, if I wanted to set up a website, and we'll come back and actually do this at the very end. So there are all my sites. I add a website, and again, I can set up all kinds of different things like a web app and SQL together, something called Varnish Plus. I can set up a WordPress on Linux environment. I can set up mobile apps, schedulers, application insights, logic apps, media services, Joomla. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And other stuff you can do here. So those are all templates, if you will. And what happens is when you select it has a fire up that template code and hydrate a virtual machine with your app service in it. All right, let's check on this guy. All right, we're almost done. Apologies for the delay there. Any other comments or questions on this? right, let's see here. Well, I'll tell you what. While we're waiting for this, let me go ahead and create another. Let me create a web app because we're going to be using it. So I'm just going to create a straight web app. So right here, so I click New, and then I click Create. And I'll just type in dog. What do we call it? Dog test? Is that what we call the database? Okay, and now you'll notice that what it is it quickly check, hey, is this name available on Azure Websites.net? So now I know that that name is available. I'm going to put it in my Visual Studio Premium subscription. I'm going to use an existing resource group, Dawson Butte group, and we'll go create. So now what's happening in the background, Azure is provisioning that web app as we sit here, and you can see under this little bell there at the top, you can see the little blue bar going across, and that tells us that something's going on. The deployment succeeded, so it looks like it's done. So let me refresh here, and there's dog test. I'll go over to him, and you can see that. Anyway, it's got a lot of config stuff we're not going to worry about. But I can actually launch it. Let's see. Browse to the site. So I go over here and click Browse. And there is dogtest.azurewebsites.net set up. So, and this beautiful homepage. So this basically tells us, hey, I need to do something with this site, which we will do in just a little bit here. Let's go back and check on, oh yes, let's restart. Okay. This is going to be interesting, restarting a VM. All right, any questions? You know, pick up the break when the VM restarts, so just do this. Yes, sir.
One of our other demos like this, probably one of our access projects. I didn't realize it, but I have almost 365.
Okay, it looks like SQL Server Management Studio installed. It has a different splash screen than the last time I ran SSMS. So hey, this is all good stuff. Let's see how we are doing with our agenda here.
You didn't specifically say that download that.
SSMS?
Is,
No, because
is it part of the
it's part of SQL Server. Yes, yes.
So it's like a next question.
At the bottom, yeah, I'm sorry, I should have pointed out, at the bottom of the main SQL Server dialog, once it is installed, we click Basic, and then Install, and then it said done, but then on the little thing, Install SSMS at the bottom. And SSMS.
Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, do that, because you're going to want the Management Studio. You're not running just the database server. So here we go. So let's go ahead and connect here. And I'm going to get a piece of pizza, if there's any left. Okay. Okay, there was no pizza left. Okay, so not quite sure why this is taking a little while here. We did restart. Everything should have been okay. All right, maybe I just need to start in the local. When in doubt, use a dot, right? I have a feeling this is not going to be happy about this. So I must have forked something with that installation.
Probably wasn't that you didn't do that quick restart. Before you did our entities.
Yeah, I probably did. I probably hosed it. This is, I've never seen SSMS. I'm unable to connect. Yeah, let's go in here. Control panel.
So encouraging.
Yeah?
No, yeah, no other people go through this too.
Yeah. Let me see if there's a Yeah, that was kind of brave of me.
Or foolish.
Or foolish. Yeah. Actually, it was foolish. Okay, so let's see if we can do a repair on this. I don't know where I put the installation media. Is it under downloads, maybe? Okay. Getting a Skype message here. Okay, let's see. Install changed, okay. That's no good. Let's see if we can find where that media went to. Probably in some temp file somewhere. So there is, let's run it from here and see if that'll run the setup again. Is there a repair option here? We may have to switch over to my non-virtual machine. I apologize.
This is the world we always live in, right? I know.
Just remember, never read a dialog box, just close it. If this, I probably hit cancel at some. If this doesn't fix it, we're just going to switch over to my laptop and carry forward. But in theory, Murphy's Law, right? I should have known the minute I thought, hey, I'll just do fresh installations. They changed the installations. Because this is a brand new. I don't know if you ever installed SQL Server. This is a totally different installation experience. So let's give this guy a couple minutes, and then we'll go ahead and move on. If this doesn't take care of it. Do we? Have we got enough? No. Okay. So everybody got except me. Yeah. I should have got mine.
Especially that they're probably ate the last piece.
Oh, come on, guys. Yeah, we may. Oh, there we go. Now we're okay. Alright.
This is better than normal progress bar where it goes quickly to 100%.
I think we're going to have to go over to doesn't look happy, does it? Okay, well, the grand experience. We got everything installed, but unfortunately this part does not work. I put a dot in there. Normally that's all text. Yeah, that's what happened. Oh man, that's too bad. Okay, well, we're just gonna have to switch over to my normal desktop environment. And I was hoping to do a full end-to-end setup, which we did, but apparently I did something wrong. So let's run SSMS here. And unfortunately, I have this experience. And see, that's what my dialog normally looks like. I don't know where that other guy came from. Okay, so local. Okay, and we have dog. So let's just go ahead and use dog as our sample database. This is just the SQL database. You'll notice that we did migrate that table to SQL, so we did do that using the upsize wizard. So let's just go ahead and use this, and we'll just take the library item table. So let's go ahead and go to Access, and we'll set up a quick form. You know what? We're not going to do the form until we put it in Azure. Save a little bit of time. So let's do the next big thing, which is Visual Studio. So we did the migration. We're not going to do the form. So we're on the second to last item, generate the ASP.NET application. So we've taken the Access database, we've put it into SQL Server. Here it is, dog, and we have a table called DBO library item, and that's what we're going to use to generate our quick and dirty application. So I'm going to launch Visual Studio. The only difference here, this is it's exactly the same user experience for what we're going to do. And we can actually follow along in here if we want. So we're going to go File, New, Project, or Shift Control N. And that's our entry point into the world of Visual Studio. Now, if you take a look up here, you can see that we've got this tree on the left, and notice that we have templates. And then under templates, we have languages, and then other project types. So if I collapse at Visual Studio Solutions, Azure Data Lake is a big data thing, SQL Server projects, I'm going to do this in C#, but notice that we have Windows Classic Desktop, Web, .NET Core, .NET Standard, Cloud stuff, tests, Windows Communication Framework stuff, and the same thing here under VB. So we're going to go to Web. We're going to pick ASP.NET Web Application, and we're going to call this guy Dog. File, New Project, select Web, select ASP.NET Web Application, and give it a name, and let's go off and set that up. And now the second dialog, it says, what kind do you want? Do you want an empty template, a web form, MVC, web API, single page application, Azure mobile app? We're going to do MVC. MVC is kind of the classic, I should say not the classic, but it is the standard web development framework.
And what that stands for?
Model View Controller. And we'll talk real quickly about what that means. So we pick MVC. So file, new project, ASP.NET application, and then pick MVC. That's it. Okay? Let's go ahead and we'll do authentication just because it's fun. So in authentication here in the wizard, it actually sets a whole bunch of stuff up for you. So one of the things it'll set up for you is authentication. So you can have no authentication. You can have individual user accounts, which are basically users associated with your database. You can use Azure Active Directory to authenticate against your web app by putting the domain in. And if you're writing an intranet application, you can use classic NTLM Windows authentication against it. And it'll make use of the login credentials that it finds in the browser within a CorpNet. So all these are options that you can do to set up authentication. It's amazing. The other thing you can do that I do a lot for clients is I start off with no authentication here, and in the Azure Portal, I can create an Azure Active Directory application on top of the existing web app. So I don't have to muck about with authentication here. I can do it up in Azure later on. So we're just going to do no authentication right now. So again, File, New Project, ASP.NET Web Application, and MVC. So let's go ahead and pick MVC. Okay. And now it's going to bootstrap a basic MVC project that has nothing in it. And this is now running on my local laptop. So let's see what happens here. Okie dokie. So this is the start page, and we don't need that. We can just close that. Come over to the Solution Explorer. Again, this is not an MVC or an ASP.NET session, so I'm just going to quickly run through. MVC is models, which you see there, views, which you see there, and controllers. Model, view, control. I'll give you the 5-second definition of each. A model is a mapping from an entity to your database, right? So in this case, we have the library item table. In the model, we would have a library class, and that library class would have as parties the fields of the database. So it's a mapping system. It serves as a layer to funnel the actual data back and forth between the database and the application. A view is our forms. So just think of your access forms. That's what a view is. And a controller handles the HTTP routing and business logic. So somebody comes into your site, dog.org/library. The controller says, oh, I'm library. What do you want me to do? And he says, oh, well, you need to go off to the library table and get the data, come back, and then when you're done with it, give it to me, I'll hand it off to the view. So the controller is sort of the communication pipeline between your models and your views. Let me open up dog just so we're looking at. Again, if I click on library, notice in this case my path is /library, dog.org/. That pipes, this gets for this handle, and we'll take a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, so we have our basic thing. So we have our scaffolding, and we're not going to dig down too much into this. This will all be done for us automatically. How much code have we written so far? 0. Number 4, create ADO.NET entity model against your SQL Server database. Models add ADO.NET entity data model. So we go down to models here, and I'm going to right click and go add. and then new item, because it's not in the quick pick list. If we had already done a few of the ADO.NET Entity models, they would show up down here, but we haven't, so we need to go new item. So we click new item, and data, and there it is. Go to Entity model. Then again, we're over in the models folder, right-click, add, new item, and then data. And I like to use is the name of the app and then model. So dog test model. Doesn't really matter. So now what it's going to do is it's going to create those classes based on our database. So I'll go here, Entity Designer from Database. Next, it's going to ask me for a connection. I'll go new connection. The period, which on this machine should work. And we'll look for dog. There's the dog database, and I will test the connection. So this is kind of an DBC connection dialog box, right? Are we okay so far? Okay. It's going to populate. It's going to put a connection string in there, and this is dog test entities. It has doing this now, but you can see that we have this connection string. It should look a lot like connection string. Dealt with and so forth. So again, we're just going to do that. We're going to click next, and now, okay, we get to pick the framework. We're going to pick 6.0. That's the default. Go next, and now it's going to tell us which database objects do you want to include in your model. So you can see they're all our tables. Again. About this. This was an Access database. We used SSMA, SQL Server Migration Assistant, to put it into SQL Server local. And now we're talking in Visual Studio to local SQL Server. And this ADO data model wizard goes out and basically queries database metadata, find what it is. Now, to save time and be simple, we're just going to take the library item, okay? So we're not going to do a whole bunch of stuff. Namespace, again, I'm going to call it dog test model, but it doesn't matter. You can leave it as the default. And I picked that one item, and that's okay, right? And I just get all the tables brought in. But we're only doing the library. So, and what will be generated for us is a mapping of that database, of that table in this case, because we only brought in one table. Okay, so there you can see that. So we have ISBN category, title, author, publisher, level, version, deposit, all line, post, CD, photo URL. Let's go back over here, and there's the data. There's the EDMX diagram that Visual Studio generated for us. Library, ISBN, category, title. So basically, we took all those database fields and mapped them into a class. Entity models and entity relationships and so forth. This is a visual example of that in Visual Studio. Okay, so let's go ahead and what class looks like. So notice that now we have this under the models folder, which formerly was empty. We now have this dog test model EDMX, which is this diagram. And down here, notice that we have library item.cs. So what Visual Studio did, he said, oh, I'm going to create a class called library item, which is the name of the table. And I'm going to make a property for it. And that's all it did. So that's the data model. So we got the data model done. Now all we have to do is generate the website. All we have to do is generate the library page or part of our application. So how do we do that? That is point Okay, we want to build the project. So Alt build solution or Shift Control B. So it has to make because it has to basically put all these new classes in the DLL. So now we're ready to do what's called scaffolding. So now we're going to create a library controller. Notice that by default, we have a home controller under controllers. In fact, if I look it up and it's going to launch that application using a local compressor, probably has a thing now. But notice localhost 507.54. So it puts the application into a local web server, which is this little guy right here. And he's actually running. I have a web server running on a local machine. I have a database server running on a machine. And we're ready to roll. So let's go ahead and add the library page. You'll recall that in dog.org, our library page looks like this. Right? We got some text and then basically a table, a data-driven table. So let's go see if we can make that happen. Here, over here. And so in this step, what we do is we go scaffold out the steps. Under control, add new scaffolded item. So I didn't put that over there. Let's see. So if you want to, you can just write down controllers, add, and this is going to generate the controller, and it's going to generate the views, and you'll see what those views look like. We go add, and now we get to pick the class. Which class are we working with? Library item. What's the data context class? Dog test entities, and that's it. By default, it's called library items controller because it takes the name of the table. I'm just going to call it library controller and go add. What do? We pick the class or the data abstraction or the entity that we wanted to use to build the CRUD UI. And then we have the data context, or if you will, the connection, the DSN, the connection that we're going to use to link to the database. And then we're going to do library controller. So we go add. Okay, so, and here we have something called, notice that now under controllers, we now have a library. And notice that under views, we have a library view, create, delete, edit, or details, edit, and index. So what happens, the convention in MVC is that you address something in the address bar in the URL by whatever is in front of the word controller and generate it for you. So when you generate a controller, that becomes a URL for you automatically. So if I go over here, just like Mark, and I go /home, if there's my home controller, right? Now, what should I put here? Library? Build this? I need to build it. Sorry, the controller is a DLL. Okay, ready? Enter again. It's bootstrapping up the whole site again. I had to restart it. There we go. So there is, okay, generated for us. Now it's not as beautiful as this guy. You know, obviously there's a little bit of styling work done here, right? But it's essentially the same table. You probably have a sort on it. Let's see, Access 2000. I'm probably sorting by version. Here you have Access 2013 at the top. You have Access 2007. Why is this field so big? Let's go ahead and quickly get rid of that photo URL field. So I'm going to, and again, this is going to be HTML stuff, but I come down to the index page, and we'll just come down here and go to the photo URL here, which is the table heading, and we'll come down. here. We covered some of this. No, we didn't actually ever cover this part in Access Fridays. If there's interest, we can do it. So I'm going to have back over here at 5. And this is one of the nice things about web development is you can play around with it in there. So there we go. Now we can kind of see kind of what this looks like. Now notice that out of the box, what it generated for us was edit, details, and delete. So here I have. Let's go to this guy. 2007 Bible. So let's find. Oh, it's the first guy here. Okay, so Michael Grow. So let's go over here and let's go edit. And let's call him. Okay. So again, this form was generated for me automatically. This CRUD URL. CRUD URL. I'm going to hit save. So if I hit F5 here, there you go, Microsoft Access Bible Dude. And now I'm going to come over here and hit F5. Microsoft Access 2007 Bible Dude. So what it generated for us automatically was that edit form. We also have create generated for us automatically at the views here under library. So views, library, we have create, delete, details, and edit. That's CRUD. And then we have that index list page. So let's go ahead and create a new book. Create new, ISBN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope there's no validation on this. Category access titles. Yes. All generated automatically. Author. Ken Mulvey. Publisher Wiley. Advanced 1.0 deposit. Would they pay you $2 million royalty on that? I don't want those. Online info, NA. Okay, I assume some of this stuff I don't need. So let's go ahead and click create. There you go. And we can come in and edit it. So all this was generated for us. What have I written? 0. Right. So let's deploy this up to Azure, and then we'll come back and answer some. You have a question? Okay. So let's deploy this bad boy up to Azure. So the first thing we want to do is put this database up in Azure. So let's go ahead and put this under. So we're here in SQL Server, and I'm just going to go right-click on the database and tasks, deploy database to Microsoft Azure SQL database. Okay. So on my database in SSMS, right-click on the database I want to deploy, task, deploy. Okay. Let's see if this works. Okay. Next, server connection. So I'm going to connect to gcyoung.database.windows.net. We use SQL authentication. We got to work. And we're going to create a basic database, and we're going to call it dog. What do we say, test? Okay, next. This will work. I don't know if I have those credentials right or not. Again, if we're in the VM, this would be very fast, but now we're having to upload this database over the network. Hopefully it won't take too long. In the meantime, while this is processing, let's see how do we get that. Oh yeah, finish. Sweet. So what's actually doing now is it's actually provisioning and creating a database in Azure and putting all that data up in there, which is kind of nice. So again, what do we start off with? An access data, an MDB, not even ACDB, MDB. We imported MDB in there. And this is where we are in Azure, and you can see it's uploading the data, all the tables, updating the database. Meanwhile, back in Visual Studio, we want to deploy this to Azure. You may recall that we went into the Visual Studio port of the Azure portal and created a web app called Dog Test. I know we did a lot of stuff, but let's see what happens here. I'm going to right-click and go publish. So on your project that you create, in this case dog test, I'm going to right-click and go publish. Okay, and then it's going to tell me where I want to go. I want to go Azure Service, select existing, publish. So the subscription, Visual Studio, and there it is, dog test, right? That's the one we created. If we go over here, let's create a new window. So there's that guy, right? Our blue screen of joy. So we come back over here. All I did was I said publish, and I picked this one that I want to publish to. So I'm going to go OK. And it's what it does is it actually goes and gets the publishing profile from Azure, brings it down to Visual Studio, and then sends it back up. So I was able to do that. I'm logged in to Visual Studio using my credentials that are the same credentials that Azure uses. So Visual Studio says, hey, this guy wants to talk to you. And Azure says, tell me who he is. Visual Studio says, hey, it's this guy, George Young, and he's logged in, and this is his email address. And Azure says, yeah, cool, let it in. So this, all the authentication handshake is done. So dogtest.azurewebsites.net. Looks like they've already published. Let's see if it, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to tell the database. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go close here. So the database is up, and one thing I forgot to do, we're going to come back and do this. We need to publish again. So let's go ahead and go settings. And the thing I didn't do is I didn't give it the remote database. Come down to settings. It's going to try and connect to my local SQL server based on what the information is. I need to tell it to connect to that database we just uploaded to Azure. So let me go here. And the server name is gcyoung.net. It's going to use SQL auth. I have to change my credentials now. Let's go ahead and test the connection. Oh, and we want dog test for the database, don't we? Okay. Test, right? In fact, it should give it to us a dropdown. Okay, let's go ahead and go save, and let's publish again. So what that's doing is that is putting that connection information associated with that website in Azure. Whereas locally, I have my local website talking to my local SQL server. That wouldn't really work very well. Huh, it doesn't, what is it doing here? Doesn't want to, is it loading? Huh. Worked. Okay, we just have some latency. So here's our site, right? So should we try /library just for grins? Again, it's going to be a little slow because it's first firing out that data connection. It is not. Smoky. So I probably messed up this setting. So let's see. Validate connection. That one's good. Let's try database connection. Oh, good. My password there. That's great. Okay. That's connection. Oh. Now let's try it. Okay. I think it was missing the database. Okay. Shall we publish one more time? 3 times the chart, as we're just about to hit 8 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, well, the first time we had to upload it, it actually had to upload all the supported DLLs. Now it does a diff, so it only has to upload that updated thing. Okay, updated connection string. Oh, there we are. So now, if you're on your phone and you go to this, for example, and you go to this page here, and this is just a default, it'll actually render in mobile view. So out of the box, you get mobile-friendly sites as well, and the same thing. So if you came in here on the phone and you clicked Edit, you could edit this form. So let's call it a Microsoft the Office, and click Save, and there it is, just Microsoft Access 2007. So that is, and we haven't written a single line of code. We have full CRUD UI written for this. Now, to get from this to what we have in Dog, obviously I did a bit of, customization, a little bit of HTML. This show that it has the shading? I think it does. Okay, it does. Okay, so if we come over here, if we just run the local version again, and I'll just show you how easy this HTML stuff. So now it's running the localhost version of that site. So we just come over here just to have a quick peek at how we can tweak stuff. So if I go to index and come up here, I have a table, and I'll just say table striped, right? So there's a class called table striped, and I come over here and I go library, and there I have my striped table. So there's all kinds of stuff out of the box that you can do to get, much better better looks at things. But it's not a bad thing. And obviously we'll probably get rid of a few of these columns and things like that. For something on Dog, where, for example, in the presentations page area of Dog, this is a bit more of a complex layout, but it's essentially the same thing. It's HTML with a little bit of CSS applied, and I repeat that template over and over for each, in this case, for each item in the presentations table. So that's it. I mean, that basically in the last hour and a half, we set up a full development environment that ultimately failed when we tried to install SSMS. And then we moved over to the laptop. But we did take an Access database, convert it to SQL Server locally, build an application against that. We didn't build our Access Forms app against that Azure backend. Does anybody have any interest in looking at that? I mean, that's pretty straightforward, right? You just set up an ODB section, do the link tables, and then build a form against it. Is everybody cool? Do you want to spend 5 minutes doing that?
Build a form.
Build in Access to talk to the SQL backend in Azure.
Oh, but it's still an Access form?
It's an Access client.
Client, okay.
Local. Yeah, local. So anyway, yeah, we won't take time with that. I wish. Unfortunately, the installation took a little bit too long, and I apologize for that. But what we would do now is open up a new blank Access application, set up that link table, right? ODBC link table, but we point to the Azure database. And then we would, in this case, it's a single table. We could auto-generate one of those beautiful stacked forms in Access, and we'd be done. So, and we'd be editing server-side data in a local client, which is really nice. Okay, so any other, yes, sir? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, on our website, new book. Good question. So one of the things I did is I removed the ability for somebody to create a book here.
One in the show.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes. So you want me to create a new book? All right. Who has my side? On his phone. Right. Yeah. It's pretty easy, isn't it? And again, we didn't write any code, and this man on his phone is already hacking our site. Right? Yes, it's the functionality. Sorry, I was being.
But so you'd have to delete that functionality out of that one list.
Yeah, so by default, it gives you the full CRUD. And you have a couple options here. You can either do the authentication that we looked at the beginning, and you can actually say, oh, only admins see this, right? Or you can just remove it, which is what I did on the live site, right? You can't. But yeah, but again, you get the really good basic CRUD. Now, you can, in terms of the HTML, making it look better, it's not rocket science. There's like 25 HTML tags and maybe 50 CSS tags that you have to know, and there's great references for that. So if you are inclined to play around with this, I highly recommend it, because what you still have is your full access application, but this time is a forms client hitting the SQL backend. But you also have the ability for some phone to go in and view data or edit data or whatever. Yes, sir.
Your website.
Okay.
Presentations, consultants, library, all tables and entries.
Sponsors is a table, yes.
Most of this is data-driven.
All this is data-driven. Yep, and this on the home page, the next meeting, this is data-driven. So I just do a, get, select, the presentation that is later than today, but earlier than the next meeting, or something like that. And I pull in a single one, but I use the same template here that I use over in the presentation. So this is, it's just reusable HTML. Just, okay, show that there. And you can see here we've got all these presentations going back. All these beautiful pictures. Memories come flooding back. Alison Balter, Juan Soto, that was a spicy presentation. Armin Stein, Randy Guthrie, Rod Stevens, Robert Miller, I haven't seen him in a while. Danny Sandrini, I know a lot of you knew him. Anyway, Kevin Bell. So yeah, so it's all that. So I will leave that test site up. So you guys feel free to go in and hack or edit. But I'm not responsible for what people put up there for content. Okay.
All you can do is content, right?
I'm sorry.
All you can do is
Yes, and that's only because we chose to expose it by default. But let me. I mean, it's as easy as in two places. You go into the code in two places. So first of all, you would remove it from the view, and you as you get into this, you do have to spend a little time in this whole create, delete, edit details index. This is kind of the core of your world. But we would come into index, and right down here, where it has the HTML action link, edit, delete. Right? We could just comment that out or delete it. I'll just comment it out here. So now if I go back up to the local version here, they're gone. Right? Now they could still get to it via the URL. So I would come over to the controller, and we didn't spend a lot of time in this, but there's the index method. Remember I said the controller takes it kind of connects the URL to the data and the view. So you can see what it says. It says, get from the the DB connection, get the library items, and turn them into a list. Get all of them. So it uses that dot syntax instead of pure SQL. So, but I'd go down to create here, for example, and I would just comment out all this stuff. So they wouldn't be able to create or delete or edit. And that's it. And I would just deploy again. So now all I have is details and index. I'm sorry, I'm kind of screaming through this. I can collapse this a little bit maybe. So there's the index view, and there's the details view. But notice that create is commented out, and all the other guys are commented out. So not only one index are there. Yes?
Back to my question a while ago. When you created in here only the table library, had you selected the whole database? Library consult?
Yes. We would have had the scaffold for each of those tables. Remember, the first thing it did, so the ADO.NET entity model, when we built that from the database, had we selected them all, we would have had all of those appearing here in the entity data model, but we would only have the controller and the views for that when we went in and said scaffold. So we could have imported all those tables and only scaffolded out library, and library would be the only thing that
You scaffold the table one at a time?
you scaffold one at a time. Yes. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Mark.
You put this up at your house is where we're hosted.
Yes.
How different is it to put this your host or some other
It's
hosting services?
it is very similar. Let me just quickly show you GearHost, and I highly recommend GearHost for very simple stuff. Now, obviously we did Azure because that is what we are. That has the full system, but we can certainly you can host a GearHost. GearHost is a much simpler UI. GearHost is a local Denver company, and they basically build their own interface on top of a subset of Azure. So they're using the Azure services, but they're hosted at GearHost. So you can see all they have. You remember that huge long list in the Azure Portal that's pulled up? They have cloud sites and databases, and then you have domains, and then you have any SSL certificates you want to manage. Billing settings. I mean, it's basically, you know, in terms of functionality, there's an API. It's basically sites and databases. And to publish, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to show the publish thing, but the publishing is exactly the same as we did for Azure. You publish, you do it in Visual Studio, you say where you want it to go to, when you get ready to publish, it asks you, you know, what do you want to publish to? And in the case of GearHost, you download a published profile and import that into Visual Studio. But it's exactly the same. Any other questions?
Your presentation, building on how
Okay. Anyway, we go back to 2003, and you are free to scroll through here at your leisure. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? Again, apologies for the installation took a little longer than I thought, but at least we all sounded together. Yes, Mike.
After your recommendation, not doing any Visual Studio stuff, but great HTML stuff.
It's nice, isn't it? Such a nice UI. It's
Fast, it's free.
fast, it's free. Yeah, highly recommend it.
I've been paying for hosting, it's like, bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, apparently Chris over at Visual Studio, he has a free account with them, and he's hooked up the Visual Studio domain to it. And he's running Visual Studio, DenverVisualStudio.com for free. Chris Wallace. Yeah.
You gotta pay for domain name, but.
Yeah. $10 a year. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.